Golden State Media Concepts Baseball Podcast. We cover everything Major League, from spring training to the World Series. We've got your favorite club covered, from New York to Boston to LA. This is the Golden State Media Concepts Baseball Podcast.
Welcome to the GSMC Baseball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Jeff Malanoff, and with me once again is Mark Souza. We're going to be talking about the MLB playoffs, the beautiful, beautiful playoffs. We just had our first wild card game. We're going to be talking about the Colorado Rockies defeating the Chicago Cubs in 13 innings. Then our next segment, we're going to be talking about the A's and Yankees. That's happening tonight. Then in the third segment, we'll be talking about the divisional round matchups that have already been taking place, or already been set at least. And then we'll be talking about whatever else we need to talk about in baseball in the final segment. So first things first, Cubs and Rockies. Rockies taking in 13 innings, 2-1. What were your thoughts on this game?
Very intense game, especially in the later innings. 1-0 for most of the game, then 1-1. Obviously, heading into extra innings, we get to the 13th where finally the Rockies break through. But yeah, just my overall general feeling was great intensity. You could feel the stress. You could see pitchers in there getting out of jam. So it felt like playoff baseball. I think the fans who watched the game were rewarded.
Oh, definitely. Well, it was a slow start, absolutely. But once it hit extra innings, it definitely got into a pace. Yeah,
absolutely. And, the Rockies score very early on in the game, and then it takes them all the way until the 13th inning to get their next run. But fortunately, it was the winning run. So they scored 2 runs, one in the first, one in the 13th. Pretty big gap between scoring. That's
probably one. I would say that's one of the largest gaps you will ever see in baseball, between one run and 2.
Yeah, you saw a few notable stats from this game.
Oh yeah, it was the longest winner take all postseason game in history in innings wise with 13. Also the longest game in Wrigley Field postseason history with over 4 hours, which is insane to think about since how long this stadium or Wrigley Field, whatever you want to call it, has been around in the baseball world for over 100 years. So that's saying a lot.
Yeah. So the Rockies outlast the Cubs. The Cubs will be disappointed. They had a pretty good season. You win 95 games, and ultimately you don't make it to the divisional round. So that's got to be a bitter pill to swallow, wouldn't you say?
I think losing in playoffs with that record in general, like having the lead in the whole division and then losing in the final game of the season, it's just very bittersweet for that whole entire franchise and fan base.
Would you say that their season was a failure because of how it ended?
I could see why people think that, because they didn't get even the division crown. I think the Brewers came back and took it from them. So I could see why people think of it as a failure.
And I can understand why some people who dislike the wild card play-in game would be, I guess a little upset that the Cubs didn't make it to a full series in the playoffs, because they finished the National League with the second best record. But, with the rule in place where number 5 plays number 4, they're on the outside looking in. So do you kind of feel for Cubs fans in that regard?
Not kind of, but they won the World Series in 2016, so you don't have much to complain about. Like, you're not in that streak of unlucky 108-year drought, so you've seen the team win the World Series. What more can you ask for? I guess another one.
Yeah, you have a point there. When you haven't won a title in so long, then every moment that goes against you in a big moment is just more excruciating. But then when you've won it dampens the hurt a little bit, right?
Absolutely, I agree with that.
And plus the Cubs, I mean, they'll be back. Like I could see a team like the Rockies, maybe some of these other postseason teams, like maybe the Braves, that you think that they'll be back, but you wouldn't be shocked if they're on the outside looking in next year. Whereas the Cubs, I think that with their current players, their current management, they're going to be relevant for quite some time, would you say?
Yeah, but it's going to be, after this season, it's going to be hard to look at them as a World Series contender again. Playoff contender, yes, but World Series might not be in the stars anymore.
Yeah, but they are a team that has the funds where they can go out and get top free agents if they need to. If they need to bolster the pitching staff, they can. Obviously, they have a formidable lineup. So, yeah, they're in good position though. They're good players. Are pretty young.
It's not the end yet.
Yeah, I mean, you look at like Rizzo, Chris Bryant. Those guys are Baez. Like those guys are young. They've been successful, so they have a nice core moving forward.
Definitely. What stuck out to your mind? Was it the pitching performance or the defensive performance that stuck out more than anything else in this game?
I would say pitching for sure. There, especially later on in the game, during the 10th, 8th, 9th inning and into extra innings, both pitching staffs got out of jams. There were runners on base. It looked like the Cubs were actually going to score a walk-off run in the later innings, but the Rockies just kept getting out of it, and vice versa. The Rockies had multiple times where they were threatening, and the Cubs would get out of it until ultimately the Rockies did get a run, in the 13th inning. But I gotta say, hats off to the pitching staffs in this game. Both teams pitched exceptionally well. 13 innings, only 3 runs were scored in total. That's my overall impression.
Yeah, they definitely was a pitching battle to say the least, and I think overall it was a great performance by both teams. It just who was going to get that last run.
Yeah, so now the Rockies will advance, and they will start their divisional round series against the Milwaukee Brewers, who also...
Probably the most unlikely matchup in the postseason so far.
Yeah, hard-pressed to find a preseason baseball magazine that had those two facing off in the playoffs.
I don't see no way no one had this pick. I don't care what anyone says. I don't believe you. You must have had a DeLorean or something.
And both teams, credit to the Brewers and the Rockies for turning it on late in the year to really make that push and get to where they are now.
Yeah, definitely. And it's gonna be the battle of the underdogs in this, that's for sure.
Yeah, and you look at the Central, you have the Cubs. I think most people probably predicted them to win the division, and the Brewers, win the division, which was unusual to say the least, but they deserved it. A great year for them. And then you look out west, the Rockies were not necessarily the popular pick to win, the National League West. Obviously the Dodgers do, but the Rockies put themselves in a position to make the postseason. They're in. It's going to be a fun series. You kind of see, you have a winner right now when you evaluate this matchup?
I think I got to go with the Brewers. It just how they came back and beat Chicago to take that division, I think puts them in more of an advantage than the Rockies do, taking the loss from LA and then beating Chicago.
With all the travel that the Rockies did, it's very impressive that they were able to win, especially an extra innings game last night.
They must be exhausted, which I put as a huge factor in this game as well.
Yeah, they play in Dodger Stadium the night before. They travel. Like, I get it. It's 2018 and travel is a little bit easier than it was 20, 30 years ago. But regardless, it's, you're going, 2 time zones over, playing the next night in a do-or-die, winner-take-all, while the Cubs had the benefit of sleeping in their own beds, being at home, taking it easy. Just a gutsy performance by the Rockies. So yeah, I think they're going to win their next series, but it is a tough one to call.
I see this one going to 5, though.
I see 5 games as well. I'm going to say Rockies in 5.
Okay. I'm gonna say Rockies in 5 also. I had them going to the World Series, so I'm gonna say they're.
You have been on their train, so it would be weird for you to jump off now, in my opinion.
I've been right so far. Let's knock on wood, and we're good.
Yeah, you probably won't be right again, but
You were agreeing with me. It's the same thing, being right in the Rockies in 5. Now you're gonna just take that back?
Yeah, but I take more satisfaction in you being wrong than me being right.
You're like everyone else. That's my friend. When it comes to sports, everyone because I keep talking about sports and stuff like that. My friends are like, "Oh, when you get it wrong, it's actually kind of satisfying."
There you go.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I don't blame them. It's when someone's like a big talker like I am about sports and confident and that they'll be right, and when they get it wrong, it's pretty satisfying. So I know the feeling.
I wonder if the Cubs being out will affect the ratings for the postseason, especially in the National League.
No way.
No?
No.
But the Cubs are a big draw.
Yeah, but baseball is a big draw, especially in the postseason.
Sure. But Colorado, Milwaukee, the Dodgers
LA,
are definitely a huge draw.
Boston and New York are
Well,
to keep
can you
those
imagine,
ratings.
though?
Boston and New York, if they face each other in the postseason, that's going to be ratings.
I mean, but if you look at it, you got the Braves also in the National League. The Dodgers the LA market is kind of the saving grace for the National League, whereas in the American League, like Cleveland, it's pretty solid.
There's going to be good ratings.
The
regardless.
Red Sox, I mean, we're talking about Boston.
Even if you're not a fan of these teams, you're still going to watch it because it's the playoffs.
Yeah, so moving on. Should we take a break?
Sure, why not? We'll take a short break. We'll get on to the A's and Yankees right after this. Hold on tight.
This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
And welcome back to the GSMC Baseball Podcast. We just finished talking about the Rockies and Cubs, and then the Brewers and Rockies matchups coming up for the divisional round. And then we also have today we have the A's and the Yankees in the AL wildcard game. The winner goes on to face the Boston Red Sox. Who do you have in this one? Do you have a clear winner?
For tonight's game, I am going to take the Oakland Athletics in a upset.
Really? You think the A's are going to be the ones that take it away from New York?
Yes, and I know a lot of people, especially who are not from California, really want to see a Yankees-Red Sox postseason series. But I think that they will be upset because the A's come in super hot, and I don't think they're going to miss this moment for them. I like their makeup of their team. I don't think the moment will be too big for them. I see them winning tonight. I think there will be runs. It won't be like last night's Cubs-Rockies game where we saw 3 runs in 13 innings. I'd say over 10 runs combined tonight, maybe a 6-5 type of game.
6-5 type of game. Okay. Do you see? So you think the A's are going to win based off hitting alone, or do you see a pitching also playing a factor in this?
Well, as we look at the pitching matchup, you have Severino for the Yankees. He's going up against Hendricks, who I would call an opener for the A's. He's not a traditional Major League Baseball starter. He's actually a relief pitcher. The A's plan tonight is to have him pitch the first inning or two and then transition to either a more traditional starter or stick with the bullpen and use relievers. That's how they're going to strategize against this formidable Yankees lineup. that is no short of power. So it is an interesting philosophy. I think I like the approach, actually. You can get the hitters off balance, where in the third, fourth, and fifth innings they're not seeing a pitcher for the second time. They're actually seeing a new pitcher, which can keep them off balance as they go to the plate for the second and third time. So Luis Severino, though, is pitching for the Yankees, and he faced the Twins last year in a very tough postseason start.
Yeah, that was a close game against the Twins, who were the unlikely participants, I should say, in the postseason last year. And would you say the Twins of this year is the Brewers, or would you say it's the Rockies? Or would you say it was the A's?
I don't know.
As in, like, the most unlikely team to make it this far.
I mean, the A's definitely were unlikely. Not too many people had them making the playoffs, let alone having this great of a season that they've had. So what a tough league the American League was to make the playoffs. I personally had the A's winning between like 72 to 77 games this year. Where did you kind of see them going?
About the same. 80. I said early 80 wins, like early in the 80s. So like 81, 82 wins.
So like a 500 team.
Yeah.
So you obviously
I didn't expect Chris Davis to go off like he did.
Right. And what an incredible season for Mr. Chris Crush Davis.
Not the Baltimore Orioles guy.
Yeah, not him. He had probably the opposite season,
He had
actually.
the worst season I believe he had one of the, if not the worst season in baseball
Arguably
history.
The worst season in baseball history,
He batted under 200, and he struck out almost 50% of the time, which we did research.
And how much money did he make this year?
He has a 7-year, $161 million contract.
Yikes.
So roughly in the 20 mils this year.
Got to feel for Baltimore fans.
For the worst performance, you still get paid $20 million. I would be a little angry if I was management.
Yeah, and you look at the Orioles, maybe not to derail from the postseason, but you're paying him that kind of money. You trade Machado, like it's a tough year.
They were destined to fail this season, especially with one of the worst records the worst record in the league with over 115 some odd losses.
So how do you see tonight playing out? You like the Yankees or do you like the A's?
It's in New York, so I like the Yankees' chances in this, and I'm one of those people that do want to see a Yankees-Red Sox matchup in the postseason because that's always good stuff. But I definitely see the A's not making it easy for them, but I do see the Yankees taking it.
So what do you think about the pitching matchup now, knowing that the A's are going to probably use like 4 or 5 pitchers, even if it's a 9-inning game? Tonight it's kind of hard to project who will be in the game, what players will actually pitch for them, but they are going, with an opener, quote unquote, over a traditional starter for the first couple innings. And on the other side, Severino pitches for the Yankees. He was absolutely atrocious in last year's wild card game, where he pitched a third of an inning. He gave up 3 earned runs and was pulled. Do you expect him to have a good start tonight, or do you expect
he's going to be motivated
to
to have a good start, but I could see him getting pulled still, just maybe getting to his head too much.
Yeah, so I think what we will see from my perspective is, regardless if the A's or Yankees win tonight, I think the A's will take an early lead. Do you kind of see that playing out?
Yeah, I can see that, but I can also see it being tied for a good majority of the game also. Severino
is also a pitcher who, when you look at his numbers, he's actually very much affected by his offense in terms of when they score. When Severino's teams score early, his record, his ERA seems to be a lot better. I think he finds more comfort. So it will be interesting to see if the A's go up early, how his mental makeup shows up in this game. Will he fold, or will he, stay confident, stay composed under pressure? Being at home, of course, helps. But you're a little worried about that, would you say?
I wouldn't say worried, more intrigued than anything. Just because I know I said this before, but it's a coin flip. of how he'll do. And it's of course, in the postseason, you never know who's going to be that postseason hero.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, who is the most likely player to hit a home run tonight?
Chris Davis.
Yeah?
Yeah, but I also see Stanton hit one, too. Both of them.
What is more likely to happen? Mike Stanton hits, or is it Giancarlo now?
That's a good question.
For Stanton, sometimes I call him Giancarlo, sometimes I call him Mike. But regardless,
he's just been playing really well.
He is an absolute beast.
He's been on a tear lately, and I think the momentum's going to carry over to the postseason.
So, would you say that he's more likely to hit a home run tonight or strike out at least twice tonight?
Both. Both are good. He's going to strike out twice and hit a home run.
He's going to strike out twice and hit a home run? Okay.
He's going to have at least 3 at-bats.
Oh, yeah. Probably 4 or 5.
Yeah. Both are going to happen.
Yeah. So, Mr. Giancarlo Stanton and the New York Yankees, of course.
Is Judge playing today?
Yes, absolutely.
I can see him hitting a home run, too.
Yeah.
He is coming off an injury, though.
We'll see. We'll see if... what about a guy like McCutchen? Do you think McCutchen will make an impact today, maybe as a bench bat or anything?
I think he's just going to be just a participant rather than a playmaker. He's at the end of his career, in my opinion. I think he's close to being done. Yeah,
he's definitely not the same, MVP caliber player that he has been in years past. So you have the Yankees, I have the A's. Do either one of these teams, let's go for you first, the Yankees, will they give the Red Sox a series? Can they win that series?
I could see it going to 6 or 7, but I still see the Red Sox taking it.
So are you hoping for the New York, Boston type? I mean, I know you predicted that the Yankees would win. Is that what you're kind of hoping for?
Yeah. I just
see the rivalry.
Yeah, it's just too good to not look to pass up on that.
This year I actually went to my first Red Sox game in Fenway.
How was it?
It was fantastic.
Where did you sit? Did you sit at Big Green Monster, or did you sit in the...
No, I sat on the first base side. I would say about 15 to 20 rows up in between first base and home plate. So pretty good seats.
Not bad seats. Doesn't sound bad at all.
It is actually nice to get reasonably priced seats in Boston, where I'm used to paying for San Francisco Giants seats, which
it feels like it's a smaller but really nicer stadium.
Oh, it's
AT&T at least.
Fenway it's so small. Like when you're there, you're like, this is it. This is the whole thing. But it's nice. They open up the streets outside. They close it off so your ticket actually gets you into. When you're in, you're just inside the area. So they close off the streets so you can actually get food and drink outside of the stadium during the game.
That's kind of cool.
It actually is really cool.
Anything else about this game you want to talk about?
Yeah. I mean, not necessarily about this game, but I know I asked you if the Yankees could make some noise against the Red Sox. I think the A's will, if they can get past the Yankees, I think they'll make the Red Sox sweat. I think that they will likely push that series, but ultimately, we've talked about this. I have Boston moving past the winner from tonight's game.
I think a lot of people do, but I wouldn't put away the other two yet, though.
Oh, no.
Because we've seen so many times that a team this good like the Red Sox over 105, 107 wins and blow it in the postseason. Absolutely.
Fenway is always a tough place for opposing teams to play. I can just imagine the scenes that we will see if the Red Sox and the Yankees play. Obviously,
it's going to get brutal.
Yeah, it'll be fun to watch. It'll be must-see TV for the rest of the country, not just for that area of the U.S.
Yeah, absolutely. So your final take is the A's and Red Sox in the divisional round?
Yeah, I got A's tonight. I'll say 6-5 at least over 10 runs in my opinion, but I'll say 6-5.
Okay, 6-5 for you. I'll say the Yankees take it 5-3.
Okay.
Yeah, that sounds about right. So we're going to take another short break. When we get back, we'll talk about the two other NL and ALDSs that have already been announced that the wildcard games have nothing to affect. And we'll get right on that when we get back to you.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
And welcome back to the GSMC Baseball Podcast. We've talked about the two wildcard games. Now we're going to get on to the other two. And if you heard that, that is the garbage truck that's right outside. Guess he didn't want us to talk about this, but we're going to talk about it anyways. We're going to be talking about the two DS divisional series matchups that are not affected by the wild cards games. So the not the Red Sox, excuse me, the Indians and Astros, as well as the Dodgers and Braves. Which one do you want to talk about first?
We'll go Braves-Dodgers. How about that?
All right, let's go Braves-Dodgers. Who do you like in that Braves-Dodgers matchup?
I like the Dodgers. I think they're a better team. And, of course, they come in with some postseason experience, some postseason success, although maybe not all the success that they've been looking for in recent years. But, hey, it's hard to choose against a team where Clayton Kershaw is a starting pitcher, even if he's had ups and downs. What do you think?
He has had his ups and downs, that's for sure. But I'm not taking away the Braves at all in this. I think they were one of the first NL teams to clinch their division. And that momentum's going to, I feel like, carry on to this game. Maybe 3 games, maybe 4 games. But I'm not doubting the Braves at all in this.
Do you think that the Braves, being a young team that hasn't really been in this moment before, will hurt them?
I don't say it will hurt them, but I will say it might play a factor if they can let it get into their heads. But they can also come in confident, saying, we've never been here before, we don't know how it feels, but we're excited to feel it type of thing. Just don't let it overtake them.
They've had a great season, and, of course they have a chance to win this series. For me, I just think it was probably the worst opponent that they could have faced just because of the difference in postseason experience. It does make a difference in these games, in these series, especially when you have two talented teams. The Dodgers' entire roster, I feel like, has been there in some form for deep playoff runs. And, obviously, pitching experience in postseason is a factor. The Braves are limited there. So Kershaw, I know, isn't pitching game 1. He's actually pitching game 2. But as their manager stated, he will be available for game 5 if needed. So knowing
a lot of pressure on your one pitcher.
Sure, but he is a pitcher that you'd like to have pitching 2 out of 5 games in a series, right?
True, but he still hasn't really proved he can get it done in the postseason, though.
Well, the
record speaks for itself.
he's been better recently, but
he
had some real hard struggles.
He gave up a lot of key hits and home runs in previous playoff appearances.
Yeah, so the Dodgers come in 92 and 71. The Braves are at 90 and 72. First pitch is tomorrow night. Atlanta will be hosting, of course. It's been a long time for the Braves. They had their great run in the 90s, early 2000s, Bobby Cox, Chipper Jones teams. It's nice to see them back, wouldn't you say?
Not the same Braves that we've seen, though.
No.
It's a very young team.
Yeah, led by that young outfielder Acuna. Pretty good season for him, huh?
Yeah, I would say a pretty solid season, and helping the Braves come back to relevance and not be at the bottom of the barrel as they have been in the past. I think he's been a huge help.
And then I think an underrated player, Freddie Freeman, first baseman, Atlanta Braves, very good hitter, can hit with power, very stable bat in the middle of that lineup. He is an experienced player to go with the young talent that the Braves possess. So I'm interested in seeing how he does. The Dodgers, not just Kershaw, but they can be tough on lefties. It'll be interesting to see if he can make some noise in the playoffs, despite some tough pitching matchups against him.
Yeah, I can agree with that. But again, Kershaw has, like I said before, has given up key home runs and hits in games in October, compared to his adversary Madison Bumgarner, who's been considered one of the greatest postseason pitchers of all time by many. So this is going to be a huge test for him to try to get out of that shadow.
Yeah, for the Dodgers, would you say anything less than a World Series win? Like, they have to win the World Series for it to be a success, right?
What, this season?
Yeah, because they've been there. They almost won it last year. Like, they've been so close. They keep winning divisions.
I wouldn't say like it's a do or die situation. I'm saying they'll probably be back next season. Also, it's not like this is their last opportunity.
No, their team is built for the long haul. They have a lot of young talent. They have players like Seager, who will be back next year, and that team will be good for years to come. But I mean, like, is it a lost season or like another mediocre season if they don't win it?
If this was their last window to make it into the postseason with the core they have, then I would say yes, but there's more to come with this core they have.
Right. And, you look ahead, and it's easy for us sports fans to look ahead and say, oh, well, this team is young. This team has Clayton Kershaw. This team is built for success. Look at their farm system. And the Dodgers are known to have a lot of good young talent, not just in the MLB, but waiting in the wings. But it can be something where, maybe we put too much stock in the future. Like, we look ahead too far instead of looking at the moment and looking at recent success or failures. And I don't know. For me, I just think that for the Dodgers, especially if they don't get past the Braves, it'll be a failure season.
I could definitely see it as a failure season, but again, if I'm a fan of this Dodgers team or a part of the Dodgers organization, I'm expecting this team to come back next year and more chances to contend for playoff spots. So I wouldn't say this is their do or die, like I said before, do or die situation. I just want to say that with this team, like, yes, they have Kershaw and they have young guys, like you said before, that could mean nothing in the long run. So, but I still think this team still has the talent to make it far, not just in this series, but like in the next couple of years to come. And they might eventually win a championship, but if they don't in the next, I would say 5-6 years, I would call that a failure.
Yeah, for sure.
I give them a 6-year length.
Yeah, just for the fact that they would have had Clayton Kershaw for that entire time. Like,
yeah,
he's if him in his career doesn't have at least one World Series ring, I'm not saying it'll be an unsuccessful career, but it would kind of
he'll be behind Madison Bumgarner.
And
in the talks, because those are the two that people talk about. It's Madison Bumgarner or Clayton Kershaw. If Kershaw doesn't have rings, then people are going to say Madison Bumgarner is the better one of the two.
I would compare this. No, let me know if you agree or disagree with me.
Okay.
Let's fast forward 6 years. Let's say Clayton Kershaw is playing in his final major league season
In 2024. Got it.
Okay, let's just say, I mean, I'm not saying he can't pitch past that because he certainly can, but let's just put a number on it.
We'll say his arm is going to be amputated after that season.
So let's say he gets there. His regular season success, will tail off a little bit, but we'll say he's one of the best 5 pitchers in the league for the next 6 years, okay? Let's say he does not win a World Series in this time. Would he be regarded as like the Dan Marino of baseball? As like somebody who's arguably the best pitcher of all time, but
I wouldn't put him as the best of all time.
But I mean, let's fast forward 6 years. Let's say he continues a normal, a normal progression, and then of course he isn't so good at the last year or two, where he falls off a little bit. But I'm not talking about like he's terrible, but he's just maybe a number 2 pitcher instead of a number 1. That's just kind of how I would see that. Maybe he would be regarded as like a Dan Marino type, but in baseball.
I can see that, but I still don't see him with the accolades that Marino has. Excuse me, I yawned again, but I don't see him with the accolades that Marino has.
Yeah,
I still think that he still can get more done in his career, as well as just like we said, like take a title opportunity and hold that ring up. But if he doesn't, I would feel like his career will have an asterisk or a what if on it. Big what if.
A big what if, correct. So, you see the Dodgers or the Braves winning this series?
That's a good question. Let's go with the coin flip.
Let's flip a coin.
Yes, hold on. I dropped the coin. Because honestly, this is a pretty even matchup, if you ask me. The National League has a lot of even matchups. Don't they?
Absolutely. I think it's probably more wide.
The coin flip league. It's the National League is the coin flip league. So we're gonna go heads Braves, since they're the first ones to win their division and it's the top one. Tails Dodgers, because that's the only option else available. All right, let's go.
Let's see it. And
who'd you pick was gonna win?
I think the Dodgers will win.
Okay. And the coin says Dodgers also, so I guess we're going to say Dodgers are going to take this series. If I had to pick a number, I would say 4 games.
4 games.
Do you think so also?
I was going to say 4, but since you did, I won't say 4.
You can agree saying 4.
I'll say Dodgers win 5. Kershaw gets the win in Game 5. MVP of the series.
There's no MVP in the DS.
I know, but I'm saying out like from the fans' perspective, like who's going to be the standout player?
Well, so we're going to give an invisible trophy to somebody. Okay. All right.
Who do you see taking over the series? Now that you've said Dodgers in 4, who will be their best player, their most important player?
Honestly, it's Kershaw.
But if it goes in 4, he only pitches 1 game.
Guess Puig. In some cases, like I can't really think of anyone else that can make an impact like them.
What about Kemp? It's interesting. He's playing against the Braves. He played for the Braves.
Yeah, he's not the same guy he used to be.
Sure.
He's just a name.
But you don't need to be the same guy. You just need to be that guy once,
He started with the Dodgers, so I would say it would be more interesting if he was on the Braves right now than he back to the Dodgers. But I would definitely say Matt Kemp has an opportunity to make noise, but I'm not going to expect miracles from the guy.
Since I'm going Dodgers in 5, I'll say Kershaw will be the most valuable player of the series. Whether there is or isn't an actual award, I'll let you kind of, stew over that. If that,
I'm stewing at the moment. I'm stewing. I'm still stewing. Yeah, all right. But all right, we'll move on to the American League Divisional Series between the Indians and Astros. Probably another very interesting game, to say the least. Who would you, if you without a coin, if you had to pick between one of those two, who would you do?
I'll go with Houston here. I think that these two teams are experienced in the postseason. Obviously, the Astros are defending their title. So I just think that they are the better team and they'll take care of Cleveland. But it should be a really good series.
Oh, absolutely, without question. It's going to be competitive. It's going to be fun to watch. I could see this one being a sweep, to be honest, but it's going to be like 3 close games and just the one team's just going to edge out all 3.
Sure.
But if I had to make a choice, I would have to go with the Cleveland Indians.
It is funny.
I feel like they're more. I just feel like they're more motivated than the Astros are.
I kind of
or more to prove, I guess.
I want to talk about that for a second. Your point, like, it can be a sweep, but it can still be a good series, and I think that a lot of people don't see that, or like
they just look at 3 games to nothing.
Yeah, they look at a box score and they see, oh my god, this team won 3 games and the other team won 0. But like, if it's a 3-2 game,
3 walk-offs,
yeah, exactly. Like, I think what you're saying is correct. Like, you can have a sweep, especially in a best out of 5, where it's a really good series, but one team just made one extra play to win 3 times, and the luck went their way. The ball bounced their way. A ball hit the wall and didn't go over the fence for a ground rule double, and they got an extra base, and it ends up being the difference, right? So
I know exactly what you mean.
It's just, and these teams are so good that it's one thing here, one thing there, you know?
Yeah. And I feel like this Astros-Indians matchup, that could happen. Then if there's ever a sweep, but it's going to be a close competitive sweep, it's going to be these 2.
Yeah. So you said the Indians?
Yeah.
Wow. So you're taking the Indians not only to win, but
I feel like
possibly sweep? Like,
I wouldn't say sweep,
it, but you're saying you could see it.
I could see it.
So give me a number. Indians in
4.
Indians in 4. I will say Astros also in 4.
Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah.
I just feel like the Indians have more to prove and more to lose than the Astros do.
The Indians are kind of like the Dodgers, right? Like, where they've been in the mix the last few years, but haven't won.
Yeah, absolutely. They're the so close yet so far away team.
So would the Indians-Dodgers be like the matchup of bridesmaids for this year? Like, 2 teams that are just waiting to actually get their ring, that have been knocking on the door but haven't actually done it?
Yeah, I could say that, and I could say they with like Milwaukee. And
the Indians have the current longest streak, though, right? Of
1945's last time they won a World Series.
Right, so they are the longest, right?
I miss that the Cubs used to be the longest. I know it was great that they won, and you got to see it in a lifetime where not like so many others haven't. But just hearing that you haven't won a championship in over 100 years was not a punchline, but just like, oh my, like you can't believe it.
So the Dodgers haven't won in 30 years. The Indians haven't won since 19 what? What was that?
45.
So what is that? Let's do the math.
Okay, so 18.
So we got 73 years?
That sounds about right. Okay. Let's see. Let's go 45 to 2000. That's going to be 50. Yeah, 55 plus 18.
Those poor Cleveland fans. I mean, other than LeBron giving them one championship, it's the Browns.
The Browns haven't won since the 50s. And the Indians haven't won since the 40s. Cleveland Cavaliers didn't win a championship at all until LeBron got there. At least
Major League was about the Indians. That's cool.
We talked about that before, how much we love that movie. Anything else to say about that Indians and Astros matchup?
Yeah. Okay, so you have the Indians.
Well, actually, I'm going to have to stop you right there. We're going to take a short break, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, no problem.
And then when we get back, we'll finish up the last segment talking about the Indians and Astros and our picks for the World Series once again. We talked about that in another podcast, but not on the baseball podcast, so we'll definitely talk about the World Series and who can hold that championship at the end of the season, end of October, when we get back to you right after this.
Want to know the latest in soccer? Then listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast. From MLS, the World Cup, and the Premier League, we've got you covered. The latest updates, the hottest matches, and news on the league's top players. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast.
David Beckham scores the goal to take England all the way to the World Cup finals.
Listen now.
And welcome back to the GSMC Baseball Podcast. We've been talking about the MLB postseason throughout this entire show, obviously, because it's the month of October. And talk about the final matchup that is set so far. We have the Indians and the Astros. And both teams look to be being favorites to, if whoever wins this has a very good chance to make it to the World Series. Don't you agree?
Define very good chance.
Just have a good competitive matchup against whoever the CS participants will be.
I could see that for sure. I don't know if I think whoever wins will be a tough opponent for whether it's the Red Sox, Yankees, or A's. It depends on the matchup. Obviously, if it's the Indians or Astros against the Red Sox, I'll say the Red Sox are the favorite. But if it's the Yankees or the A's, then one of these two teams could certainly be the favorite.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I'm really looking forward to the most is just once the CSs happen, everything just starts to fall into place. Like, as soon as the divisional series ends, we have those moments and stuff, but then the World Series just starts to take shape. That's when it really starts to take shape. Like, some people say it starts when October begins, but in reality, as soon as those CSs begin, that's when the World Series really starts to form into something special.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask you, since you have the Indians winning this series, who will you say will be the standout performer / MVP made-up award that I'm giving out for this divisional round? But who do you like from the Indians?
Honestly, they don't really have one like superstar type of player. They have just a great team. They're just a team of up and down. You know what I mean by that?
Agree.
And honestly, I would probably give it to their bullpen if the Cleveland Indians win.
You have to expect that if they win the series, their bullpen will play a huge part.
Absolutely. That's why they have probably one of the best bullpens in the league. Mm-hmm. So that's why I put them up there beating the Astros, because that bullpen's that's going to make or break them. And since how well they've been playing, they should not have a problem losing when it comes to their bullpen.
Yeah, for sure. I think that if Houston wins this series, I look for Altuve to be the X factor.
Altuve, yeah.
Yeah, Altuve. He just does so much for them, not only hitting the ball, but defensively. He's a leader. The team kind of just follows his lead. He gets on base. Just a great all-around player that's kind of a throwback.
Well, I think also a big factor is if he doesn't play well, would that make the other players not play well either? Will that be an effect?
It could. It's always one of those things where for teams, you look at the guys who are the leaders of the clubhouse, and it's just so much easier when those guys are performing for other guys to get in a rhythm, to feel confident in their at-bats, just producing at the plate, but in the field as well. So you always look, especially in times of pressure, stress situations, where you look to your leaders, you look to those guys, and if they're playing well, it just makes it so much easier. Or
they're like one of those leaders that just bashes the Gatorade cooler. I hate that when that happens. Like, you're the leader of the team, and you're gonna have a freak out in the dugout. And
you don't want your leaders of your team to be guys that are just kind of emotional. Like, you want them to be even keeled.
Yeah, but I must say, being on the bench in a just when, like, during your at bats or just you're not playing that game must be because you can eat. Like, that's what I love about baseball. You can probably order a hot dog and you still could probably play solid in that game.
Nachos, hot dog.
They must do that at some point in the season, right?
Yeah, come on. How many times when they're in the dugout and then they go down to like the clubhouse, like,
do you think they're just going to grab a bite of food?
They're going to the bathroom. They're going to get a sandwich.
That's the beauty of baseball. It's such a relaxed, like, if you're out
at Fenway, you're getting a lobster roll. I mean, come on. How many lobster rolls did Pablo Sandoval eat when he was playing for the Red Sox?
He probably just ate the rolls. I mean, that was all starch. It looked like it was. All due respect to Pablo Sandoval, but my God, he was getting more weight than he should have.
I mean, he was paid
a lot.
Guaranteed contracts can do something to players.
He helped the Giants get to win 2 World Series rings. The first one in 2010, he barely played. He played like 1 game in Texas as a designated hitter, and I believe struck out.
Then he had the Verlander game.
Then he had the 3 home run game, which put him in the history books, and he's there forever now. So unless someone hits a 4 home runs,
we'll have a different outlook on him.
Yeah, he kind of took everything for granted after winning that last World Series in 2014. Now he's back with the Giants, ironically enough. So many players actually end up back with the original team they started. Like Matt Kemp is a perfect example of that also.
Mm-hmm.
Jose Bautista, I can see ending up back to Toronto.
They just they go somewhere where they're willing, like at some point, like maybe it's a player whose career is coming to an end, or they've had some downs, and they're just looking for an opportunity, and it might come to the point where it's like, okay, 4 or 5 teams are interested, and they're all offering about the same amount of money, so why wouldn't I not just go where it's familiar?
True. So it's definitely like it plays a factor,
and plus, like San Francisco and LA, those are 2 nice places to live.
Oh yeah, San Francisco. I think that's why so many players want to play in like the San Francisco area, because of the location is nice.
So I wanted to ask you, is it okay if I transition from the playoffs and talk about something else?
Is it about baseball?
Of course.
Well, then depends on what it's going to be. So say it.
Bryce Harper, where is he going to play next year?
That's a good question. That's all. No, I'm kidding. It's just,
and that's all we have for today.
He's going to go to and then end the episode. But
it's next time for the answer. Right?
Yes, that next episode will be 10 seconds long. Just talking about, we'll say what he is going to. But no,
so who are the
San Francisco was a top runner last time I checked.
Let's just name the teams that you think are legitimate contenders for his services.
San Francisco. I could see even the Anaheim Angels as contenders.
Really?
Yeah.
Even with Trout.
Him and Trout in the outfield, they would totally move him. They would move him to right.
Contract come off their books?
I think in the next not this year, but next year.
That's such a terrible contract. Don't you think that might be the deterrent? Like they might not go for Harper because of what happened with Pujols?
They knew what they were getting into.
Okay.
Because he was at the end of his career when they signed him. That's how I see it, at least.
So, let's see. You have San Francisco. What about Dodgers? They're always got to be in the mix, right?
Yeah. All right, we'll put the Dodgers in there. Would you put the Mets?
Harper, he's from Las Vegas, so I think he's a West Coast guy.
So you think he's going to a West Coast team?
I don't know. I just think, let's just say all things were equal and he could live in LA or... I don't know. Let's see.
I put the Red Sox in that lineup as well. They don't really have major contracts.
Red Sox? What about the Yankees? Do you think that they could?
With Stanton's contract and with Judge's rookie contract ending soon, I don't think they could afford a third guy.
I mean, they could probably afford it. It just comes down to if they want to, right? Like if they want to do it.
The Yankees never had 3 guys like that with massive contracts.
Can you imagine
Judge is still in his rookie deal, so once he gets
ticket price increase with Harper, though.
But with Judge's rookie contract coming to an end fairly soon, you got to pick between him or Harper. Who do you want to pay?
Probably Harper.
Really? Well, Judge has been their guy.
Judge is their guy, and I understand the fact of staying with the in-house guy, the guy that came through your system. I totally get it, but I mean, if you're asking me who I'd rather have for the next 10 years, I'm taking Bryce Harper.
Okay. I still think paying those 3 guys is just too much for one team to pay that much for.
Okay. So
even if it's the
Yankees outside looking in because they have the funds. Like if you have the money,
I just think they're more. I think they're waiting for Judge's rookie contract to expire so they can re-sign him to a major league deal.
What about a team like the Cubs?
I could see the Cubs, but maybe not in the top running. Like they'll offer him something.
Do you think that he's gone for sure from Washington? I know
Yes.
that they're going to make him an offer, and they have money. Like Washington Nationals.
It seems like he doesn't want to play there anymore. Doesn't have?
I feel like that too. I think you're right. It just seems like he has said his goodbyes.
Do you think his strikeouts and all that stuff has been his struggling at the plate will affect his contracts for free agency?
I don't think so. I think that what he has going for him is that he's very marketable. Mm-hmm. Baseball players, like, who are the stars? Like, who are the household names right now? You know?
Yeah, and there's not many.
You said a guy like Judge. Judge is definitely a star. I mean, he's got a lot of endorsements now. We see him. He's becoming a visible person, not just for baseball fans, but in sports in general. I think Bryce Harper carries that kind of star power, so that helps. I think that helps. You know, he's a decent looking guy. His jerseys will sell. They'll sell a lot of merchandise with the name Harper on it, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I definitely think so, but it doesn't. We don't know where he's going to go. Is he going to go to the American League or going to stay in the National League in the weaker league?
Yeah. That's a very tough question. I think do you think he'll be on the Giants? Do you think the Giants?
That's a good chance because they have tons of cap space still, or not cap space. Excuse me. They have a lot of money.
I mean, they have money. They've been trying to.
They're still one of the wealthiest teams in baseball.
Oh, for sure. See,
they could afford him definitely.
Oh yeah, but that's kind of what we were talking about. Like the Yankees can't afford Bryce Harper. Now, will they want to? Maybe not.
I think they're just gonna.
The Oakland A's cannot afford Bryce Harper. You know.
Yeah, but I'm saying not the Yankees is because Judge's contract is ending soon.
What about the Cubs?
It's a possibility. I guess it depends on how Chris Bryant and Anthony Rizzo's contracts, like once those are up, what's going to happen there.
Yeah, for sure.
You always got to think of the players in your team also.
I think the Dodgers getting Machado kind of took them out of the Bryce Harper, but
they're not going to get him.
But would you be shocked if they made a move, maybe a trade to open up the space for
I wouldn't
Harper?
be surprised, but I still don't see them being able to pay for him with all the other contracts they have.
I know we talked about the Giants. You know, they're looking to quote unquote shake things up this offseason, inject a.
They have a new GM. They're looking for a new GM, and I think
McCutchen was a short-term player.
Longoria was a joke.
Do you think that the Giants offer Bryce Harper a $300 million contract?
I say somewhere close to that, maybe 250 in that area, maybe even more. I see them offering him a massive deal, though. That's for sure. I don't see it past Stanton. I see it maybe 300 is probably the max I would give him.
Like how many years?
Say 8.
So like a 30 mil
a year,
like
yeah.
30, 35 mil, depending on where it lands.
That sounds reasonable for a guy like him.
Do you think he's worth it?
At the moment, he hasn't been playing that well, but he could make a comeback. Maybe he needs to be more motivated to another team.
Do you think playing at AT&T Park or another place that's not necessarily a hitter's park would go into his decision making?
I think he's just going to follow the money.
Yeah.
I don't think it matters where the stadium is.
Do you think that matters to players?
I guess it depends on the contracts also.
I mean, obviously, if
excluding contracts, I would probably definitely say it would be a thought, but I think it's more about where am I going to get paid the most, or where am I going to play where am I going to play the most and contribute the most to it, and also looking at a championship contenders. If Bryce Harper goes to the Giants, they could be a contender, but also if he goes to any team, they're automatically a contender.
I mean, he's a player that he will make any team that he goes to very interesting. Yeah. If you're a good team already.
He hasn't even said anything about what team he's interested in. He's
been playing it close to the vest.
So I have no idea where he's going. He can go to any team.
I see him being on the West Coast if that's a possibility. But
everything's a possibility. He's unrestricted. Nothing there. he's free to do whatever the heck he wants.
Absolutely. Cool.
But that's all the time we have time for today. Join us for the next baseball podcast. Will probably be next Wednesday. We'll have a lot more of the playoffs to talk about. But until then, we will see you next time.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Baseball Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.